What's good, friends list? Episode 61 of the Game Pass Gamecast coming at you. Halo Infinite has been the talk of the town recently, and not in the way many would have hoped for. From its delay to 2021, to now series legend Joseph Staten coming in to quote-unquote help get the game back on track, things have been better for Master Chief, but could this change the tide? So, this week, we look at the development outlook for the newest entry in Microsoft's flagship franchise after its shakeups, and how it could lead to the game finally finding its footing. Plus, WB Montreal's Batman game has finally been revealed, but it doesn't center around the Caped Crusader himself, just like Rocksteady's new Suicide Squad title in the Arkham universe. How will this division of canon affect each respective game, and could staying in the Arkham universe for Suicide Squad potentially shoehorn it narratively? Also, it seems as though the rumors surrounding a new game within the Perfect Dark universe at the Initiative may be true after all, with confirmation coming from a trusted journalist, but if so, is an already established IP the right move for the studio's virgin outing, and does a third-person Perfect Dark game even work in the modern gaming landscape? All of this, and much more, on the newest episode of the Game Pass Gamecast.
Now the fun begins. Richard.
Stop! You violated the law.
Welcome back to another episode of the Game Pass Gamecast, your weekly go-to podcast for all things Xbox Game Pass, and PC gaming, including news, rumors, and conversation around them damn good video games. You can catch new episodes of the show when they drop each and every Friday morning on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, SoundCloud, and all other major podcast services. So, be sure to subscribe to us, rate us, review us, all that jazz, you know, the whole rigmarole, wherever you get a podcast at. And follow us on Twitter at GPGC Podcast. Stay up to date with everything regarding the show, video games like, and our dope giveaways. I'm your host, as always, Travis White, aka Travelus, on most internet platforms. Joining me, as always, my partner in crime, the dynamic duo, Mike P-Pack. Mike, what's good? What's going on? And what have you been playing, man? What's good?
Yeah, not much has changed for me. Every listener of this show has figured out that I don't mix up anything in my life. I'm pretty bland. I play the same shit over and over again. But I pretty much have just been playing a lot of Halo because moving again, but moving to a temporary situation. So, and school has started back up. So some things have come to a grinding halt. But yeah, I mean, I've just been playing a lot of Halo, Master Chief Collection, Halo 3, trying to get into form to compete here if I ever can get a day off work when I can actually make a tournament. But yeah, man, just playing that. Still playing some Golf Club 2019. I get paid Friday, so I think I'm going to pick up the new game that just came out.
Nice.
I've heard some pretty good things about it, so I'm excited for it. And yeah, just doing some of that. Oh, and it's finally time. I know this is an Xbox-centered show, but finally got my Switch kind of like grabbed it and was like, man, I should really like maybe invest in this.
Fuck yeah, you should.
Because sometimes when we're slow at work, I hope my employer doesn't hear this, but when we're slow at work, I have nothing to do. So it's like if it's me and my coworkers and my manager's not there, it's like time to bust out the Switch. But within this entire move, I think the AC adapter has been misplaced.
Oh, nice.
So
That's
not good. I don't know if I have to. Is it? It's probably proprietary, right?
Well, see, here's the thing. Nintendo's kind of fucky with how they... So, the big thing was, whenever the Switches first came out, they were very, very nitpicky when it came to what USB-C adapter it would... Like, all USB-C adapters work with it, for the most part, 99% of them.
Okay.
But there's certain voltages on some of them that will damage the Switch. Like,
oh, that's great.
Like long term, if you like use it long term, whatever.
Yeah.
But I think that's more Nintendo just being like, hey, buy our fucking version. Almost like the Apple-esque way of like, hey, you have to, whenever like they pulled the shit on, oh, you can't buy third-party iPhone cords back in the day. You have to use Apple products for them to work or we'll block it. It not to that degree, but kind of in that same realm. But that being said, you can still go, like, they have licensed third-party ones now that you can just go and buy, like,
okay,
that are
sick.
like, like, yeah, it was more of a Wild Wild West style whenever they first launched, but now it's kind of calmed down a little bit. But yeah, you shouldn't have any issue. Just, I wouldn't go to like Five Below and grab a USB-C cord or anything like that and try to charge it.
Well, that's great. So yeah, that's going to be the next thing, is just getting games for it and actually getting to play it.
Mm-hmm. No, I totally agree with that. You should definitely hop on and play your Switch, because the Switch is fucking awesome. There's so many great games for that.
I've had it since March and haven't even turned it on, so I don't even know if it works, but I'm guessing it does. If I charge it up, I'm guessing it would be fine.
Right. No, I'm sure it will work. Shouldn't be any issue. If not, you know who the hell fucking sold it to you. Yep. So we're coming for you, Colin's household. But on my end, I like you, my partner and I were in the middle of a move this weekend, so very fucking hectic this whole weekend. Didn't really get to play anything from like Thursday until really Monday was the first day I sat down and actually like got to fucking turn on my computer and or video games and play stuff. So it was nice to finally, after being fucking exhausted this whole weekend, because there was no way in hell I probably would have been able to actually stay up and play anything, even if I wanted to, because I was just so fucking exhausted building furniture and whatnot. But did get to play some stuff, jump back into MCC. Like I said, I've been wanting to go through and make sure I get all of the Season 2 unlockables. Definitely, since they are CE related, and how much I just fucking love Halo CE, I want to get all of those. But really, once I got like pretty much all of the great Journey skins, I was pretty happy. I'm like, well, if I don't finish it, at least I got these fucking dope like space. Like, I love that like purple and like blue, neon blue-esque, like deep navy almost, like space, like pattern. Like, I love that fucking speaks to me. I love that. I love purple in general. But outside of that, played a little bit of Valorant. I've been trying to play like 1 or 2 games a day if I can. If not, oh well. But it's just been one of those things that it's easy to go back to, pick up, and to be quite honest, to me, I'm kind of in the camp that it's just, after playing, like you, granted, you playing at a much, much, much more higher level competitive play than I do with Counter-Strike, playing Counter-Strike and then going to Valorant is like night and day. Like, it's just, like, I shouldn't be excelling in Valorant. But it's still a fun game. I still like to jump in and play it, even though I'm not the biggest fan of Riot, and neither should a lot of people in most ways. But, you know, it's still a fun game I like to jump into and grind out a little bit. But unfortunately, I think I'm going to end up putting more money into Fortnite again.
Oh boy.
But it's just and it's only because those fuckers had to go, oh, we got another licensing deal with Marvel. We're going to give you the Iron Man skin. We're going to give you the Wolverine skin. Like, stop taking my money. Like, here, all right, here's $20. Take it. Don't talk to me again. That's it. Like, just give me all you can for that. I don't want to, like, to be honest, I don't really want to buy the Battle Pass, because I'm not going to be in it for that long. If it was something like CE, or if it was something like or not CE, MCC, or if it was something like even like Valorant, where I'm playing it at a much more consistent level, and I'm much more competitive when I play that game, and I want to invest that time in, then I'm buying a Battle Pass. Then it's worth it to me to go and jump in and buy the Battle Pass, get all the unlockables, get the extra things that come with it, and support a free-to-play game or something like that. But I just don't... I'm so hot and cold with Fortnite, like, every now and then I'll just jump into it just for something different to, like, spice it up, and it's only, like, one game. Like, I played Warzone. Warzone's another one. I wouldn't invest the Battle Pass in on that, because, like, I jumped in one game yesterday, got a fucking, like, 9-kill game, and died, like, in 7th place, because at that point somebody literally just, like, jumped down from a building and had 2 kills and fucking killed me whenever I had, like, 25% health back. I was like, BRs like that, I guess, in general, I'm just over that. Like, but at the same time, I know when I do want to get in there, I want to have the fucking Iron Man skin, because I'm a fucking psychopath.
Right.
Or the Wolverine one, because the Wolverine one looks dope. But realistically, I have the Batman one. I'm happy with that. But I fucking love Tony Stark. I love Iron Man. I love Wolverine, man. I don't fucking know. They might get my money again. I don't know. Anyways, enough about that. Mike, let's get into Button Mash this week before we start into our news stories. And before I go on about how I'm spending money, I probably shouldn't be spending money on. But let's start into Button Mash. We can do some quick hit news stories before we head into our topics for this week. Starting with Call of Duty Black Ops Cold War has officially been revealed and is heading to PS4, Xbox One, and PC on November 13th. The PS5 and Xbox Series X versions will arrive at a later date, but that didn't stop Activision from announcing their various versions of the game, including a cross-gen edition that falls at the $70 price point that gets you access to both the current and next-gen versions of the game, which is basically foregoing the principle of smart delivery that Microsoft's been pushing. Shocker. Jeff Keighley has revealed that the 2020 Game Awards is still happening, but it will be available online, and it is poised to be, in his eyes, the biggest Game Awards yet. When asked if the Game Awards would be virtual, given the ongoing COVID-19 pandemic, by IGN's Ryan McCaffrey, Keighley said, What I will say about it is, we have a very interesting plan for the show this year. We're definitely doing it. A lot of people are asking, are you delaying it? The Oscars have been postponed. Are you postponing the Game Awards? We are absolutely not. We'll share more in the coming weeks about it, but it's actually probably going to be our biggest show yet. We're obviously not going to have 10,000 people in a room together physically for the show, but I think you'll see a little bit of this with how we do Gamescom. We're definitely doing more than just me in a room announcing winners. I'm really passionate about still doing a live show versus something pre-recorded. So yeah, we're working on some scenarios for ways we can present the show live with a bit of spectacle to people without the public being able to buy tickets to come to a show and things like that this year. Sega has announced that Yakuza Like a Dragon, the newest entry in the famed series, will be releasing on Xbox One, PS4, and PC on November 13th. It also is promised as a day one release for the Xbox Series X, but obviously without a release date for the console, it's unclear whenever the next gen version of the game will be coming. The previously announced Lord of the Rings Gollum from Daedalic, I hope I said that right, Daedalic Studios has revealed its first teaser trailer, and we've also learned some details regarding the game. It will mix Prince of Persia-like stealth action, feature a branding narrative, and expand on the hints given by J.R.R. Tolkien about the store formerly known as Smeagol to create a brand new Lord of the Rings story that aims to fit more alongside the books. Daedalic Studios still isn't showing off gameplay footage for its 2021 next-gen stealth project, but all signs point to the game remaining on track for its said 2021 release. CD Projekt Red, we are talking about Cyberpunk, but CD Projekt Red has revealed that Cyberpunk 2077 will feature free DLC as well as paid expansions akin to that of The Witcher 3. The Polish developer replied to a fan on Twitter who asked about the potential for Cyberpunk 2077 to have, quote, free DLC like its previous projects, which offered an entire roadmap of free content to support the game beyond its initial launch. CD Projekt Red responds to the fan with the Kool-Aid Man gif spouting, "Oh yeah." No official roadmap has been provided yet. And finally, Wasteland 3 reviews are live. Wasteland 3 is out. Go play it. It's inXile's newest entry into the storied isometric RPG franchise and is getting quite good reviews. It currently sits at an 86 on Metacritic at the time of this recording, with Games Radar saying, quote, Wasteland 3 doesn't bring much new to the table, both as a CRPG and as a piece of post-apocalyptic fiction, but it is a terrifically executed role-playing game that rewards player investment from beginning to end. So, Mike, before we head into our news stories for this week, anything with Button Mash that kind of sticks out to you that you want to touch on a little bit more?
The Call of Duty Cold War, they finally admitted that it was Cold War. Obviously, that's like the worst kept secret, because basically ever since Modern Warfare released this latest iteration of the game, basically everyone has known that it was going to be Cold War, so that's awesome that they released that. I'm really excited for that, not so much as like from a multiplayer standpoint. I'm sure it'll be fun, but I always felt like the Black Ops campaigns, except for I haven't played Black Ops 3 or 4, but like Black Ops 1 and 2, the classic campaigns, were just so awesome. Like they were definitely, now granted, like the Modern Warfare campaigns, like World at War, they were all great, but I felt like, and even like COD World War II's campaign was amazing. And I just felt like, I always enjoyed the Black Ops campaign so much. So I'm excited to see what they do with a Cold War angle. That's going to be amazing. Obviously not the biggest fan of Call of Duty in general, but, the campaigns, hats off, credit where credit's due. And then again, Yakuza coming out on November 13th. That's really exciting. Sega still making games. I was a huge Sega fan as a kid. Really thrilled about that. Free DLC is awesome from CD Projekt Red. But my main point is, God damn it, keep Wasteland 3 out of Adam Marsh's hands, because if he gets another RPG in his hands that he loves and he can sink hundreds of hours in, we'll never see him again. So please chill out with that, game devs. We need our boy.
Yeah. I would like to see him. Now, granted, the first time getting to see him in quite a long time, everybody really, due to, this fucking pandemic going on this weekend. But I'd like to see him once we eventually, hopefully, get out of this pandemic, more than just that, because of another RPG, because that boy likes RPGs, and he'll admit it. Admittedly,
yeah, he likes to get immersed.
Especially his CRPGs. He loves playing on that PC, man. So, no, I agree. It's great to see. Looking at Wasteland, it's a series that I've known about for a long time. It's one of those that, I've seen passing by. I knew about it. Never really got into the realm of it, especially. Not really like I played on PC. I used to play Warcraft back in the day, Diablo, things like that, but was never like, hey, I'm balls deep into PC gaming. Now, for the past, 4 or 5 years, I have been. But, with Wasteland, it was one of those that I always remember being there and involved with PC gaming and everything. That was one of those, game series that I always found kind of just so connected with it. But seeing these good reviews and seeing the money that Microsoft has put into Wasteland to kind of back end its development, because obviously Wasteland 3 was in development before Microsoft purchased In Exile, and it's still obviously coming out on PS4 as well. You can get it on, a Sony console as well. But, having it on Game Pass is instantly me jumping in saying, yeah, I'm going to play that. And having almost that Obsidian-esque level of writing where it still has a serious nature to it, but is still very much satirical and whimsical, and there is some lightheartedness in, some of the character writing and dialogue between and relationships that you have. Anything preview-wise I've seen from this game seems fantastic. So that's one I'll probably actually at least dip my toe in this weekend. I pre-installed it already. It's good to go. But it's definitely one of those that I'm eventually going to jump into, because I definitely want to at least check it out. Game Awards, too, I could have told you that it was still happening. Jeff's such a pillar in games media and games journalism, and just such a flag bearer for and I don't even say normalization of gaming in mainstream, because it's just part of pop culture as it is, but being such a flag bearer to bring in more gamers and put gaming front and center in all of entertainment, there was no way he was going to miss that. There's no way that we weren't going to have Game Awards. It is now, I think, me personally, I think it is the back end E3 level event of the year. That's what you have. E3 in summer, you have Game Awards in winter. You're going to, and just from a fan perspective, not even industry wide, granted at the end it's much more, we're focused on not selling but giving awards, but both have the announcements. Both are, hey, if we don't see about it at E3, we're going to hear about it at the Game Awards. They've gotten that level of announcement. Microsoft revealed the Xbox Series X at last Game Awards. So it's such a big scale event at this point anymore. Now, if you would have asked me if it was still incorporated with Spike TV, no, probably not. But now that Jeff kind of calls the shots with that and has full control for the most part with that and is such an integral piece to that, there was no way that he was going to get that out there, especially with how obviously comparative now, being able to go on and just record something from a studio, just him or something like that, and have so much pre-recorded stuff. I know he wants to stray away from that, but in general, being able to do this digitally, it's just a no-brainer to have that, come in. But outside of that, I think that's about it for Button Mash. I mean, obviously, it was great to finally hear it was about time they fucking announced new Call of Duty. They should have, normally they fucking do that in May, so I'm really shocked it kind of, I don't know if that was a product of the pandemic. I don't know if that was because we're even talking about, marketing-esque things. It's more revealing the product, if they're saying the game's going to be ready for launch, on holiday 2020, why aren't you showing anything about it? So, who knows? But it's out there now. We've seen it. It is what it is. So, Mike, let's head into the news this week, our big topics for this weekend. We're starting with, the first one's kind of a combined one because the first part of it is late breaking news, but we got 2 Halo stories and I'm kind of throwing into one here. But let's start with Halo veteran Joseph Staten joins 343 Industries to get Halo Infinite, quote, back on track. And these are both from IGN, 2 different authors, but first one being from Adam Banghurst over on IGN, as always. Links in the descriptions to all of the articles we talk on here. Go over there, give those guys and girls some clicks, and make sure they get the views on their pages as well. So, Microsoft and 343 have confirmed that Joseph Staten will be, quote, returning home to Halo for a bit. The news was revealed on Halo Waypoint, further clarifying that Staten will officially be joining as project lead for Halo Infinite's campaign after helping launch Tell Me Why this week. In addition to Staten, Pierre Hintze, I think. I don't know. I'm sure I'm butchering it, but the head of publishing team for Halo the Master Chief Collection will be joining the Halo Infinite team as a project lead for its free-to-play multiplayer experience. Hintze and his team, quote, have demonstrated an amazing ability to deliver new content, an excellent fighting program, and substantive updates across MCC over the past year. Staten began his career at Bungie in 1998 as a product manager on Myth 2, Soul Blighter, and was the writer and director of cinematics for Halo Combat Evolved and Halo 2, the writer for Halo 3 and Halo Reach, a creative consultant for Halo Wars, the writer and creative director of Halo 3 ODST, and the writer and co-creator for Destiny. Halo, additionally on top of that, no plans to delay until 2022 or remove Xbox One support, confirms 343. This comes from Matt Kim over on IGN, as like I said, links in the description for all of this. Following the news that Halo Infinite will be delayed, unsubstantiated rumors. I'm having a really hard time talking today because I'm losing my voice. Fingers crossed it isn't like fucking COVID or some shit. But I've woke up the past 2 days with no voice. So I'm struggling to speak. Bear with me. I know this is a fucking audio podcast. So you're probably like, this fucking buffoon out here talking about it. But just stick with me, all right? I'm going to struggle a little bit today. Rumors began circulating that Halo Infinite could be delayed as far as 2022 and drop support for the Xbox One altogether. These rumors were shot down by 343 Industries. In a tweet response, 343 manager John Jasinskek, is that how I say his last name?
Are you talking about Unishack?
Unishack, that's it. Thank you. Said that I recognize the name just from seeing him on Twitter and stuff all the time, but I can
he's very interactive on Twitter for sure.
Said that, quote, there are no plans to change our 2021 release or the devices and platforms we'll be supporting. We're building Halo Infinite to be the best it can be on each device and platform. Halo Infinite was originally announced for the Xbox One with enhancements for the Xbox Series X. In January 2020, Xbox Game Studios boss Matt Booty said the first-party Microsoft game won't be a Series X exclusive for at least a year as part of its strategy to keep the entire Xbox console line viable and open. However, things were thrown in flux when 343 announced that Halo Infinite will be delayed and miss the Xbox Series X launch window. In a statement, the developer said, quote, the decision to shift our release is the result of multiple factors that have contributed to the development challenges, including the ongoing COVID-related impacts affecting all of us this year. There have been some criticisms about Halo Infinite ever since a full 9-minute gameplay video was revealed in July. Critics noted that, graphically, Halo Infinite appeared flat and the fidelity of the demo appeared lacking. 343 said in a statement that while the art style for Halo Infinite was intentionally made to evoke a more quote-unquote classic look for Halo Infinite, the developer agreed that there is room for improvement when it comes to the level of fidelity. Quote, we don't have firm answers or outcomes to share yet, but the team is working as quickly as possible on plans to address some of the feedback around detail, clarity, and overall fidelity, said 343. The team is committed and focused on making sure we have a beautiful world for players to explore when we launch. So, ton of Halo Infinite news. I almost said Halo 5, God forbid. A ton of Halo Infinite news to kind of talk about, but really ever since this delay announcement, I kind of feel Infinite has had a little bit of a rough go when it comes to really the rumor mill between the delay reportedly being caused by Showtime's Halo show that they're developing, which 343 came out again and said, no, that's not the case. We're not. It's almost two separate entities in a way. Like, great, it would have aligned. That would have been great. If not, oh well, we're more worried about making sure the actual physical mainline product is good to go. So that has nothing to do with it. And now this, really, it's one thing to be critical to the game itself, but it seems like the quote-unquote leakers or like people like that who just go on 4chan and fucking post, creepypasta fucking...
Basically like shit posters.
Yeah, they are shit posters for the most part, and say they're leakers or journalists when you're not, dude. Like, let's get real. It's one thing to be critical of the game, but it's, it seems almost targeted from those people, and even a bit of dogpiling, especially considering how... forward-facing, transparent, cognitive to everything going on involved with this delay. 343 surprisingly been in Microsoft too, considering, everything and how integral this game was to the launch of the Xbox Series S. And now especially with bringing Staten back into the fold, really, with Halo after being gone for quite a while. So, how do you feel Staten can positively impact the development of this game, Mike? And, with the current state it's in and the development window it really has to work with, and with that being said, with 2021 still being the target year, what should that timeline for fans look like when it comes to re-unveiling this game and its beta rollout, flighting, anything like that? And really, this is kind of my hypothesis with this. Do you feel like a holiday 2021 date is the most logical release window now for this game?
Yeah, let me just preface my whole...
I know I throw a lot out with that, but I just want to give you kind of full reign to talk about it.
I appreciate it, and you might have to kind of just retask me on everything you kind of threw at me.
Yeah.
Because there is...
Looking at it now, I was like, oh, that was a lot of questions.
There is a lot of things that I really want to say about this entire situation, and basically where we're at here, with being Halo fans, being Halo competitors, whatever realm you come to Halo from, whether you're a casual player, a lore fanatic, and love to read the books, love the campaigns, whether you compete hardcore, put a lot of time into the game, we're kind of all in the same boat. And admittedly so, the competitive community has been, we've been pretty brutal to 343. The decisions they made with Halo 5 didn't make a whole lot of sense. You had the community guy at Quinn Del Hoyo who promised all these things about the game. They fell very far short of what was promised to us. And basically, when the game wasn't shown last year at E3, when it was supposed to be shown, and then it wasn't, basically ghosted. The 343 or ghosted being shown. They said, "Oh, don't worry about it. We'll release something soon. And then fast forward to this year, 343, E3, what they did get to show, when the game wasn't shown last year, a lot of realists, a lot of people like myself, we all just said, yeah, the game's not coming out in 2020. If you aren't able to show it at last year's E3, there's no way in hell that this game's going to be ready. Lo and behold, fast forward to now, obviously it's not ready. So basically what I want to say is, regardless of what they say the reasoning is, they are, and they being 343 and Microsoft really, but 343 mainly, they're not happy that COVID happened. No one is. But being able to blame it on something like that is so nice for them, because now they can just say, oh yeah, like, we had such unprecedented things happen as a community, game developers and everything. Like, obviously this game wasn't going to come out. And it's like, no, the game wasn't coming out anyway. You just have a little bit of a scapegoat now. But it is what it is. That's the only thing I want to say first, is the game was never releasing on time, period. Now they had a reason to blame it on. Going forward, hearkening back to, I think it was last week's cast. It was either last week or the week before when I kind of brought up the Glassdoor reviews of 343, and how scathing they were of the company. All of a sudden, those reviews when there's a bunch of coincidental reviews, you start to say, how many disgruntled employees are there that would really release this kind of information about 343? So, you kind of take it all with a grain of salt. Now it's like, with everything that has happened recently, it's like, holy shit, all of those negative things that were being said are most likely true, which is really concerning. 343 is obviously, it was a sinking ship that is clearly doing anything they can do to bail out water. So going back to an OG from Bungie to come help them ship is the term he used. They're rebuilding the campaign from if they have to rebuild the campaign from the ground up, if it releases holiday 2021, I would be shocked. It seems like the art director that they hired, what they had before, it was all just a really big disaster, and they're trying to do anything they can to bail out water as fast as humanly possible. So do I think they'll try to get it out and force it out by holiday 2021? Absolutely. It'll be released holiday 2021, but it's not going to be the full game. It'll be like the some multiplayer, the battle royale mode will not be out, and it'll be like half of the campaign missions, and then the other half will come out as DLC. So I do think it'll release on time, but I think the way it's going to release is going to be unsatisfactory for many people. But just the way you have to look at it, at this whole situation is like, dude, this game it's had a lot of struggles. I'm happy that they finally went to someone that has experience with the Halo community to try to right this ship. But as of right now, it just feels like it's a sinking ship. And it's like every time they try to patch a hole and they bail the water out, it feels like a bigger hole has been made. But now it feels like with the moves they've made recently, with the transparency they've made recently, it seems like they might have finally patched the hole. They figured out where the leak was, and now they're able to bail out the water and get it going. As far as bringing the MCC team on to help, produce Halo Infinite, from the get-go, one of the biggest complaints that the entire community had was, if you spend all your resources on the new game, what the hell? Like, this game, talking about MCC, was such a disaster. How is that fair to people that bought it? So, they've kind of said, yeah, we're not going to give up on supporting 343. And in fact, I would like to take my hat off to the 343 team that works on MCC specifically, because they have done a hell of a job. They released something that was a dumpster fire. They know it was a dumpster fire. It's taken a long 5 years. They've basically had to rebuild the entire code of the game to make it work. But, they're still patching things, still doing Insider for Halo 3. But luckily, it seems like they're finally getting into a good spot. So it feels like having a team that had such a miserable start and has made the right changes to get to a better spot is a no-brainer. And I'm really excited to see what that team can produce, because to be honest, if you're a casual player, the skins, I just made a comment today to some friends, like, I'm really happy with what they did with the nameplates, because I felt like that was something that was just a huge miss on their part. They had all this awesome customization, the weapon skins, all that stuff. Like, it's so cool that they're finally kind of embracing that. So I'm excited to see what they do, for Infinite. But this news kind of almost went under the radar last night, because it was released at like 9 p.m. Eastern is when this news hit. I shared a screenshot with you about it. And a lot of the competitive community kind of has not really paid attention to it, because right now our focus is Halo 3. We're trying to get in shape for that. So a lot of the competitive community has just kind of blown it off. But for Halo has always been based around, like, the multiplayer anyway, has been based around campaign gameplay, really. So for the fact that the campaign's getting an entire new workaround, that's insane to me. And it is going to make a huge difference with multiplayer too. So I'm interested to see what they do. Definitely rocky times at 343, to put it lightly, but I do think like they're trying to do everything they can to do it, to get it right finally.
Yeah, and that's kind of my sentiment too, where I'm always one, and this is just me in life, if I and this is growing up too, like, if I ever got in trouble, I told on myself. Like, I had to be truthful. I was always one of those people that was just like, hey, I fucked up. And even now, like, as an adult in the workforce, like, and luckily, I have good managers and, supervisors, bosses, whatever you insert whatever word you want to there, that I can go to and say, hey, I fucked up. How do I approach this? What can I do? Like, and it's more of a growing, lesson with this. But with 343, it's almost gotten to the point, and I've been very, not apologetic, but I don't know how you want to say it. Like, I've been very understanding because, with 343, because it's like it's like if somebody else went and started, if somebody else besides Matt Groening went and wrote The Simpsons. Like, after 30 years, somebody steps in completely different to take over The Simpsons. And somebody who has completely been the, within the brain, it was their brainchild, it's been everything they've done, yada yada. They're stepping in, Fox is saying, hey, we're done with him, or now I guess Disney, hey, we're moving away from him, you're going to do this now. So those are big shoes to fill with something that massive and that culturally impactful. Granted, Halo maybe not the, point of The Simpsons, but in gaming, yeah, it is kind of at that point where this is a franchise that at one point in an IP that really, and it still is to this day, but at a much higher degree, even in the limelight now still, like it would be in the limelight now still, but it's a game that probably needs to be on the Mount Rushmore of gaming figures, that it's been that impactful, it defined the FPS genre on consoles, it defined the twin stick first person designed for consoles to make that work. Like, it did so much and blew up because of it. And then people also fucking found out that, hey, I love the lore about this. I love this world that they built. That, after building something like that up, then handing it off to somebody else because the original creator wants to go on, hey, we don't want to be shoehorned into this. We want to try something else, Maybe we'll come back to Halo one day, but we want to try something else. Well, Microsoft being like, well, Halo makes us a shit ton of money. No, we want to keep making that. Okay, we'll give it to you. We'll make our own studio, and we'll let them work on it.
Mm-hmm.
And to a degree that, I always kind of looked at it as, okay, they're stepping in. They're trying to, they're fighting this uphill battle at all points. Because whether they do something original, they're going to get shit on because people are going to say, hey, we want old Halo, which I'm in that camp. I like a more traditional classic Halo experience, but at the same time, I'm not against, like, if I see advanced movement in there, I'm not going to, like, fucking jump off a bridge or anything like that. Like, game mechanics are meant to evolve to an extent.
Yeah.
So, and that's what all modern shooters have, advanced movement pretty much at this point, like sprinting or something at least. But, it was always big shoes to fill, and they're always going to be fighting an uphill battle, because if they do something original, they're going to say, people are going to say, well, we want the classic Halo. And if they do classic Halo, now people are saying, hey, we're taking a more traditional approach with the art style, with, everything. We're peeling that back a little bit. We're focusing on the gameplay. We're making sure we give you that experience that you've been wanting for a long time. They did that to a degree. I mean, at least the basis of that. But now people are shitting on them saying, well, it needs to look better than that. It needs to blah, blah, blah. Which I'm not saying it shouldn't, but an art style being pissed at, graphical fidelity, yes. Which they address, saying we need to up that. We need to focus on the actual fidelity itself. But the art style, they're trying to give people what they want, saying they want a more traditional art style. They want to get away from the more, grounded, gritty, militarian like look of Master Chief and get to a more sci-fi approach to him. Well, they're doing that, and now people are like, well, no, that's not what we want. Well, like,
which is it?
Yeah, exactly. You can't have both. Like, it's just not feasible, So I've always kind of had that, like, okay, well, I'm not gonna like dogpile on them. I'm not gonna like, but at what point do we get where it's like, okay, clearly this isn't working. Like, clearly, this team, this director, this team, everything, the people at the executive level who are making these high-level decisions for this series, this franchise, this IP, at what point is that, hey, this just isn't working? This isn't it's the bond between the franchise and the fans has been pretty much shattered. Like, at what point do you say, blow it up? We need to figure something else out, get people out of here. We need to completely revamp this. We need to, and it sucks because there's so much money involved with, like, even if this game comes out and it fucking blows, a ton of people are gonna fucking play it. Like, and I'm saying blows from a, like, oh, when we're looking at it, people are going to play this game for the next 5 years as their competitive multiplayer shooter. They may think it blows, but Joe Schmo will just think, oh, it's a new Halo game, I'm going to pick it up, I'm going to play it. I don't know what the difference between, hit scan and projectiles or whatever. You know what I'm saying? Where it's like, they won't know that difference. They're just going to see, oh, new Halo, and they're going to buy it. And they're probably going to play it because they don't know the difference between that stuff where, it's still going to make a lot of money when this game comes out, whether it's gets rave reviews or it gets okay reviews. So, at what point, though, does Microsoft say, hey, we're seeing the overall message of this game that we're getting on from our fans is being negative, and it's been that way since 2012 for the most part. Like, when are we, money will come and go, but we can build something that gets us back to the level of Halo 2 and Halo 3 hype in terms of people investing in this franchise. This being their one game they pick up all year. This talks to Joe Blow consumer who buys Madden and Call of Duty every year, and that's it. Like, we want this to be the $160 product, and granted, Game Pass plays into a lot of this, but we want this to be that game that they pick up. We want this to be that where they realize, okay, this is clearly not working with this team. Like, I don't know, man, and that's why whenever you sent that over last night, and even too on IGN's Unlocked, their Xbox podcast, I was listening to it at work this morning. It's Dustin Legary brought up a really good point, and it was before they recorded this on Tuesday, so it was before all the stuff about Staten came out that he was coming back to that franchise. But he was even making the point. Let's look at who wrote Halo 1. Or who was involved with the writing with Halo 1? Joseph Staten. Who was involved with the writing of Halo 2? Joseph Staten. Who was involved with the writing of Halo 3? Joseph Staten. Who was involved with ODST? Joseph Staten. Then you go to look at, okay, who was involved with Halo 4's writing? It was, I can't remember the name off the top of my head. Who was involved with Halo 5's writing? It was a different person. Where there's no, and granted, just 2 games, but once again, I'm sure it's a different writing team moving to Infinite because they're kind of doing a soft reboot with the franchise, so they're going a different direction as it is. So there's no continuity. There's no, it's one thing if it's a through line between all of it, and I appreciate them saying, like, okay, people didn't like Halo 5. Let's fucking change the narrative on that in terms of for the game itself, not the actual plot, but I would hope that too. But point being, like, at what point does all of this just feel like throwing darts on a dartboard and we see what sticks? Like, just throwing shit against the wall, okay, let's try to it should never be just like, let's patch this game along. That's why Microsoft has been getting shit on, like, for the past console generation. And deservedly so, because they've just been kind of patching stuff along with their exclusives. Like, you look at Sony and you look at the exclusives.
Limping Gears of War along. Yeah. Limping Halo along. It's like,
it's one thing, like, you look at The Last of Us Part 2, and I'm sure people are like, man, Travis, you talk about PlayStation a lot on this. Because I played PlayStation for most of this generation because Microsoft didn't invest in the things that I want, and that's great experiences that drove me to a place. I still fucking love Microsoft with all my heart. Like, Xbox has so many, like, I have so much attachment to that Xbox, but as a brand and whatnot. And I own an Xbox One X. I fucking love it. It's great. Game Pass is fucking fantastic. But look at The Last of Us Part 2. They revealed that in 2017, I believe. No, late 2016, 2017. Then 2018 they showed something. But then it went dark. And they said, clearly it's, okay, we're putting our head down, we're getting to work, we're doing some things, we're changing some things. Then they re-revealed it. They re-brought it back up and said, okay, now it's coming out here. Where Microsoft seems to, okay, you look at a game like Crackdown, for example. And granted, we're talking different development studios across all different things where you have Crackdown 3 there, and it's like, they showed that game like 6 years ago, and they kept fucking just propping it up, and so much, it was in development hell for the most part without being in development hell. It was in active development, but was just sitting there fucking stewing. And it finally comes out, and it's a fucking wet fart. Like, it's just like, this is why. Like, it sounds like I'm so fucking negative right now, but I think this is what they're doing with this delay is a fucking fantastic thing. Like, I think this is good. Now, granted, it's going to cause more fucking headaches for the dev team and more crunch and whatnot, which fucking blows, and that needs to be addressed. But the fact for this game, for fans, for Microsoft, you know, yes, there still needs to be something that this brand new fucking box is coming out, even though Game Pass is the new next-gen console. They still want you to buy this fucking Series X. Like, they want you to buy their new flashy piece of tech. But, like, there needs to be something to sell that with, but they're at least cognitive of Microsoft saying, okay, yeah, delay the game. Like, that's ballsy, but fucking delay the game. We're more worried about this game being fucking good than it not being. Because it'll sell more copies, it'll get more people into Game Pass, into our ecosystem. This game's just fucking good. If it's what people want to play. Like, it's like Phil Spencer, like, just brought in, like, this magical manifesto and was just like, if we make our games good, if we throw money at first-party development, and we make sure that we bring in talented people, and make sure we give them, you know, the financial means to take their time and make sure this game is good, we might actually sell more, and more people might want to be in our ecosystem, and we might want to, you know, we'll make more money. I don't know. You got to spend money to make money. So, long-winded, but we're kind of in the same thing, where it's like, I'm more like owning up, like, you know, to this point where it's not like, I gave 343 a lot of passes where, you know, I was like, that's big shoes to fill. We're going to fucking, they're fighting an uphill battle. They always were going to be, but you know what? Like, at this point now, with how fucking hyped I was for Infinite when it was first revealed, I was like, yes, this is already, tonally, this is what we want. To see where we got to a little bit today and how poorly that part was going to be handled, and how quiet they were about, you know, flighting and things like that, or a beta or anything. And we're seeing for the first time gameplay alone of this game in July, and it's coming out in November. It's more like, it's just more like, all right, the jig's up, man. Like,
yeah.
So I don't know, man.
I think, you know, the big talk for Infinite was like the big defending point for most Halo or 343 apologists, or even 343 themselves. Like, the biggest thing they were touting was like, this is going to be the most expensive game ever developed. This is going to be the most expensive game ever developed. And sure, yeah, that's true. But how much of that development budget have you burnt up in art directors moving?
Yeah.
Completely having to overhaul an engine. Now you released gameplay footage, and you basically got shit on like the people who tried to make the Sonic movie, and got bullied into changing Sonic to make it more like look like Sonic. It's like, how much money have you just literally caught on fire? Like, at what point do you realize it's not a money thing? It's not how much money you put into the game. It's the people that you hire, or the people that are, you know, overlooking this game. Because,
and it goes into my point of, there's no continuity then. Like, there's 10 different directions you're trying to take this game in. There's four, or like there's 3 different things you're trying to do with this one game in its plot. It's how the game is it a game as a service? No, not really. Well, is it this and that? No. Well, you know what I mean? There's just too many branching paths with it, with the game itself. Not like narratively, but, and even somewhat narratively, but just mechanically, like at its core.
The biggest thing for me about Halo in general, especially with Halo Infinite, is like, when Bungie was making the games, you could tell that there was passion. There was a wild love for the game. And that's the only way that you can explain how incredible the first 3 games were. And then, you know, obviously with Reach, Bungie told a great story. The campaign is really good. But the multiplayer left something to be desired. It was basically alpha for Destiny. Hey, what if we do this with, you know, weapons with bullet spread and this and that? Like, how far can we push that to make it cool? So I see Reach as like, you know, Reach was basically Destiny alpha, or whatever would be before alpha, like infant Destiny, right? So Bungie wanted to move on, and you know, I get that from a creative standpoint. You had been working on Halo for 10 years. That's all you did. But I'm not trying to like come out here and be like, oh yeah, Bungie was perfect, because Bungie absolutely was not perfect. You know, whenever they released Halo 2, the first release night before the first patch, you had to beat someone down 6 times to kill them. That was a design that they put in the game. You had to hit someone 6 times with a beatdown to kill them. The pistol, like the Magnum, pre-patch, that thing, if you use dual Magnums, you would pull the trigger like 3 times. It was like a 6-shot kill with a Magnum, and you could just do, and people were running around with dual Magnums just mowing people down. And it's like, we had to fix some things. Like, when they released Halo 2, it wasn't perfect. When they released Halo 3, absolutely was not perfect. No one's asking for you to release an absolutely perfect game, but 343 as a development studio has just basically put blinders on, put earmuffs on, and just not listened to any feedback. It took them like a year to change the competitive settings for competing. Like, storm rifles were still in there. People were camping around corners, crouching with storm rifles, and killing you in like 3 seconds. That's not Halo. It's just not. So from an entire standpoint, like 343, while Bungie was never perfect, Bungie at least like I remember the first patch for Halo 2 came out like it was like a week after they released the game. They were like, "Holy shit, we fucked up. Like we messed up," and they got to work. It's just for like a fan standpoint, it feels like 343 doesn't. Well, now they're admitting that they messed up, but it just doesn't feel like they get to work. It feels like they've been all talk, no action. Like, if you're going to talk the talk, you better walk the walk. And as of right now, 343 has not walked the walk. I feel like this final move might be a step in the right direction to them actually rectifying their mistakes. But we'll see what happens whenever the game's released, probably springtime of 2022, because they could do it for Christmas time 2021, but it is not going to be a full game, and that's going to make people even more angry.
Yeah, I'm staying positive for 2021. Like, I think Microsoft is really going to push for fall or holiday 2021, even if we're talking a October, November release. But
they have to. You're talking about they're talking about a 6-year development period and how much money they put in, and there's nothing to show for it.
Yeah.
Like, as of right now, I could not imagine the Microsoft executives talking to 343 about what is happening at their studio. And Microsoft says, we've put X amount of dollars into your studio. You've had this many years, and this is what you have. How do you even begin to have that conversation in a meeting? Yeah. I'm glad I'm not in that position. God bless whoever is from 343, but good grief, man.
I never thought it would get to this point. I really didn't. I didn't think it would get to this much. Just, I want to say shit show, but it's like, I don't want to be that. I don't want to use that. I guess just this logistical headache with this game. I just never thought I'd get to it, but I don't know, man. We'll see where it goes. I still feel good about holiday 2021.
The stakes were so high with this game, and they knew it. Yeah. And this is what they did with it.
It's
like when the pressure is on, usually there are humans that fold under pressure because it is tough. But as a game studio, you would have liked to have seen them try to step up to the plate and make something happen. And it just feels like they're letting the opportunity go.
Yeah, definitely. And game development's hard. I mean, I liked what I saw from the gameplay aspect. I thought gameplay was smooth. I thought the guns looked like they had great pop to them. I thought they looked like they shot well. Like, everything about it, even the advanced movement in it, I was cool with, because it didn't seem like, as long as we're fucking off with loadouts and Spartan abilities, like, you're probably at least going to pique my interest. So, I don't know, man. We'll see. I'm fingers crossed for holiday 2021, but just get the fucking game right if that's the case. If not, delay it again. So, anyways, let's move on to DC Fandom dropping 2 trailers. One for Suicide Squad, Kill the Justice League, and Gotham Knights. Fucking finally. So, this comes from Jeff Young over on Hypebeast, as always, link in the description. Over the weekend, DC Comics hosted its 24-hour virtual event, DC Fandom, to make up for the lack of San Diego Comic-Con this year. And on top of a bunch of movie trailer releases, the company also gave gamers a closer look at some of its upcoming titles. That's us. We're cool gamer guys. Including Suicide Squad, Kill the Justice League, and Gotham Knights. Developed by Rocksteady Studios, the studio behind the critically acclaimed Batman Arkham series, Suicide Squad, Kill the Justice League is a new action-adventure shooter bringing together Harley Quinn, Deadshot, King Shark, and Captain Boomerang. The plot is a continuation of the Arkham universe and follows a new threat in the city, a corrupt Justice League. The game also features multiplayer mechanics allowing for up to groups of 4, where each player controls one of the characters from Task Force X. Another game DC Fandom unveiled is Gotham Knights, a new open-world title based in the Batman universe, but without the Caped Crusader himself. Left with no Batman to defend, Gotham now relies on his 4 protégés, Nightwing, Robin, Batgirl, and Red Hood. Developed by Warner Brothers Games Montreal, WB Games Montreal's games finally fucking here, the game will also be another multiplayer experience where a team of 4 will work together as the masked superheroes with Alfred from a decked-out Batcave to fight the villains and criminals enterprises of Gotham City. For those interested, Gotham Knights will arrive sometime in 2021, while Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League will launch in 2022. It is about fucking time, Mike. I hit my mic. I'm so fucking jazzed up. It's finally time. We finally got to see not only WB Montreal's Batman game that was one of the worst kept secrets in the industry, but finally the long-rumored Suicide Squad title from Rocksteady as well. Albeit a CG trailer, but hey, I'll take it. Beggars can't be choosers. It's a 2022 fucking game. Let's be real. And it's also only on Xbox Series X and PS5 and PC, but no cross-gen titles, while Gotham Knights will be a cross-generational title. So knowing that these two titles live in different universes, Suicide Squad continuing to carry the mantle within the Arkham universe, while Gotham Knights resides within its own different one, do you think that each having its own identity is the right course to take? And specifically in the case of the Suicide Squad, do you think foregoing to leave the Arkham universe could shoehorn them potentially into certain design decisions within the game, having to stick within that Arkham universe? Like, unless there's an absolute, the reason we're making this game is because we have a specific story to tell within this game.
That's definitely tough to think about, because it's like it's tough because you would like to see Suicide Squad, because the movie was a disaster, you would like to see them kind of get a little bit more latitude to tell the story that they want to tell. But at the same token, I feel like this is such a weird ball of wax to kind of uncover, or at least talk about for me, because I am a Batman fanatic. I might not have been when I was younger, but I really do appreciate the universe now. And I think it's actually surprising that the Gotham Knights is going to be different than, like, in a different universe, which is cool.
I agree.
I think it just gives the different teams, it almost feels like the different teams pitch these ideas, and Warner Brothers is just like, okay, I'm cool with it. The one team in this case was like, yeah, I don't really care to work in the Arkham universe as much anymore. And the other team might have been like, I want to work in the Arkham universe. So it's just like, it just seems like it probably just makes sense that the teams got what they wanted almost. Because with these two games, it doesn't feel like they would have had to have picked. Like, you could have done kind of anything you wanted with either of them. And it feels like maybe they just gave the teams their own little latitude to pick what they wanted to do. And I'm excited for that, because I think that's truly when you get the best creative genius, is when you kind of give teams a leash to a lot of rope to kind of work on what they want to do. So I'm just excited to see what the teams come up with, because clearly everyone knew this is what was coming, but I mean, we're all still super hyped for it.
Yeah, definitely. I'm in the same camp as you. I'm happy that I'm happy that at least one of them is extending the Arkham universe, but at the same time, I thought it would kind of be
flip-flopped.
Yeah, almost to an extent, just because. But even though, I mean, I guess spoilers for Arkham Knight, but game now 5 years old, but how that game ends, it's hard to continue in that franchise or in that actual universe. I mean, you certainly can, 1000%. You could. There's ways to do it, but how it ends is very, very much designed to be the ending of that. So I'm glad. I was hoping that one would take the mantle, but I'm glad it is Suicide Squad, because I'm glad it's telling something that isn't necessarily a Batman story. Because that there was kind of not a hard capped end, but very much, hey, this is the end of Bruce Wayne's Batman story. we're wanting to go a different direction. I'm glad because there are, even just playing those games, there's so many Easter eggs. There's so many different nods to different characters within there that you knew that Rocksteady, when they were developing this game, was smart enough to put that in there. If we ever want to pull on this thread, we have it there. We can go there and we can pull on that thread. So I'm glad that it's them kind of going into that. But I kind of was hoping to have that Batman universe, that Arkham universe within WB Montreal's game, because the Court of Owls are in there, and I'm such a stan when it comes for that run of the Batman comics. Scott Snyder's shout the fuck out, who basically, if you ever want to, and Mike, I know you're not a big comic book reader guy, but if you ever want a perfect starting place with Batman right now to get into, is the New 52 line, which I can let you borrow. It's basically in, I think it was 2011, something like that. It was like our senior year of high school, that DC went out and said, okay, we're bringing in new creative minds to write. We want to start, basically give people almost a fresh starting point to come in and get into comics, to basically revitalize comic book sales in a way with DC, that we're starting it's called the New 52. And basically what it was rebooting every single character that they had, like Superman, Wonder Woman, Batman, to a sense. Like, it was still, you knew the characters jumping in, obviously, but it was a good starting point for anybody to get in, where it's now, hey, this is the official run of Batman. Like, there's different, some of the best Batman stories are graphic novels or trade backs or something like that, where it's, a run that was very specific, where this is just, hey, you want to read the newest Batman comic that's out now? This is it. The New 52 is the run that we're going with right now. But that's where the Court of Owls were introduced, and the Court of Owls is so fucking awesome. And I don't want to kind of spoil anything, because I either want you to read it or play it in the game, and not just you, everyone who's listening. But the way that sets that up, I was hoping that I was able to see, in a sense, maybe another prequel, like Arkham Origins was, that WB Montreal created, which is hands down one of the most underrated. Definitely underrated superhero game, but within that franchise, it gets so it's the black sheep. It's almost like the Oblivion of the Elder Scrolls. Like, it's an excellent fucking game, but other titles like Arkham City, Arkham Knight, Arkham Asylum, they're all talked about much more than Origins. That I was hoping I could see them get that chance to take that, even a younger Batman, because he is younger in the story that you're reading, that, hey, we could take this Batman and have him go and take on the Court of Owls within the Arkham universe, and see how that all incorporates, that there was this underground, cabal almost of pulling strings and whatnot. So, but at the same time, I'm just happy. I'm so fucking happy we're getting that, because that storyline is so fucking cool. There's so many cool characters, and I'm really curious to see how this all plays out. It's not, WB Montreal came out and said, hey, this isn't a games of service. You're only going to be able to do co-op. I don't even think there's 4-player. I think it's just only co-op online. But this is hey, if you're looking for a single-player game, this is it. You can jump in, play it single-player, no problem, which a lot of people want. And there's so many, there's different like storylines with each villain that's in it, that you can go and run through specific, like you would in most open world games, where it's like, oh, you start pulling on a thread, for example, with one character, and even if it's side missions, like, hey, they're going to have, you start this one, it's an intro, and you're going to have like 6 after it, where they have that for each villain that you're going to encounter, with, obviously, it seems like the Court of Owls being the primary one that, is kind of overseeing everything, or pulling the strings behind the scenes. So, I'm just happy we're going to get into that. I'm so fucking happy that such a cool, nook and cranny within the DC universe that they're going to get to touch. And I'm really excited to play also as somebody who isn't Batman. I mean, we've had the opportunity in, other Arkham games to play as Robin or, Batgirl in Arkham Knight and things like that, but never to this extent, where this is, hey, this isn't a challenge room, this isn't a side thing, this isn't DLC. No, this is the main game. You're going to play Batgirl, Robin, Nightwing, Red Hood. Like, choose one of them. Red Hood, he's much more militant with guns and stuff, almost to a Punisher level, if we're looking at Marvel side, I guess you want to say. Batgirl being much more aligned to actual Batman, same with Robin to an extent, but he's much more agile, and Nightwing being this just absolute powerhouse of a acrobatic with also using melee attacks. Like, it's so good. I can't wait for people to check this out. I'm so excited for that, especially. And then obviously Suicide Squad. I fully trust Rocksteady with whatever they do. They're one of those studios now that I'm just like, yeah, cool. Whatever you give me, I know it's going to be good. I fully trust you with what you're going to do. And granted, this game's been in development for quite a while, or at least what the basis of this game, maybe it wasn't, I don't think it always was a Suicide Squad game, but the foundation of what they wanted to do with a game has been in development for quite some time. So I'm excited to see where this goes. And I think we're definitely, 2022 is a long time to wait, but I definitely think Gotham Knights will be a really good, really, really good palate cleanser to get us ready for that and to open us to, DC video games aren't just Batman. We're hopefully going to be able to, there's a lot of cool characters within that, hall of heroes that they have that hopefully, we're going to get to see more of that. So, Mike, let's head into our last news story for this week. And not really a news story. I know we usually don't like to kind of dabble in rumor, but this is a rumor that's been fucking floating around forever. We've talked about it before a few times, but it's much better to hear from a, trusted source, I guess, about it. But supposedly, Xbox new Quad A studio, which the initiative, they don't say it in the title, but shocker, it's the initiative, is rumored to be resurrecting Perfect Dark. This comes from Tom Bragan over on Games Radar, as always, link in the description. Microsoft's all-new Quad A studio is working on a new Perfect Dark game. That's according to journalist Jeff Grubb from VGC, reporting the scoop in the most 2020 way possible in the comments in a Twitch chat window over on Kinda Funny Games Daily's live stream. Grubb claimed that Xbox's latest first-party studio in the initiative is hard at work creating a third-person title set in the same universe as the beloved N64 shooter. If true, this upcoming outing, almost certainly for the Xbox Series X, would be the first new entry in Rare's beloved FPS franchise since 2005's middling Perfect Dark Zero on Xbox 360. Grubb's comments followed the discussion of a recent tweet by Xbox head Phil Spencer, who described the initiatives as challenging themselves to do new and old things in new ways. This isn't the first time that Spencer has hinted at Microsoft's shiny new game studio resurrecting an old IP. During an interview with Inside Xbox at E3 2018, Spencer had this to say. Studio head Daryl Gallagher really loved his time with Crystal Dynamics, working on Lara Croft and Tomb Raider, kind of reworking some of that franchise. We were talking about some of the things in our past that might be interesting. Nothing to announce yet, but just some things that he might want to go work on. Aside from a logo, little else is known or has been shared about Microsoft's mysterious new Maestros. We do know, however, that the Santa Monica-based initiative is turning into a bit of a game dev supergroup. Described in a now deleted Microsoft job posting listing as a Quad A studio, the initiative is comprised of developers who have worked on franchises like Apex Legends, Tomb Raider, Gears of War, Doom 2016, and Uncharted. So,
pretty good dichotomy.
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
Pretty good mix.
Yeah, not to brag, I would
Weird
say
flex, but okay.
I was gonna say weird flex, but that's a pretty good flex. That's quite
Good
a good flex.
Strong flex.
Strong flex. I see. Yeah, respect. Real, recognized, real. Mike, Perfect Dark being the initiative. If I can fucking speak today, I'm so sorry, everyone. This fucking voice loss is killing me. The initiative's first project really isn't something new, some groundbreaking idea, as many have hypothesized, including us on multiple shows in the past, that the IP aligned with much of what was said about the project, along with the talent being brought in, like we were just talking about, and the approach to its development. But, how, with having somebody reputable like Jeff Grubb, who has been very good in predicting, and not necessarily predicting, but using his sources wisely in what information is being told and whatnot, both, I'm sure stuff all on the record and not using anybody directly, having somebody reputable like that when it comes to the information he provides and his sources, it seems like it's a very real thing now that we're going to get Perfect Dark, or at least something within that universe. But Mike, does reimagining an IP, an existing one like this, for this studio pegged as really potentially the new benchmark in developing what, for some reason now we're going up to Quad A gaming instead of Triple A? Like, at that premier, highest level possible in game development, does that hurt the outlook for this game at all? Perfect Dark has a storied past and is loved by many, its first entry, but, its handling since Microsoft acquired Rare and the IP, like the story did say, has been criticized by some. Perfect Dark Zero came out, and it kind of came out like a wet fart. For a lot of people, I used wet fart twice in this episode too.
Yeah,
mark that down.
Mark that down in the echelons of history. That's what we need our intern for, because then they can start calling us out whenever we use the same phrases all the time.
Wait, I'll get him in here. Raul. So it's the fact that we've had somebody, or they've tried their hand at this IP again, coming especially to, I think Perfect Dark came out in, 1999? Hold on. Dun, 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 dun. It came out in 2000. Okay, so 5 years later, on basically missing a whole console generation, coming out on a new platform, a new ecosystem in general, originally coming from a Nintendo franchise, basically was a new, hey, this is a fresh start for us. This is a fresh start for this franchise. So does putting themselves and taking an IP like that, who kind of fell on hard times a little bit and is being brought back potentially, does that hurt what this studio can do and the potential it has and what it can do with this project specifically? Like, I don't doubt the talent, but being, not forced, but hey, we're focusing in on an older IP compared to, hey, let's make something new. Let's make something our own that we can be known for. Or, well, none of that matter, given Microsoft's commitment to now saying, hey, we want to throw money and we want to financially support our developers first party to make sure we go toe-to-toe with the Sonys out there and Nintendos with our first party IP.
What probably was done in this case is, we kind of talked about this with the initiative. Like, basically, we were surprised it took Microsoft this long to go poach top talent with the money that they have.
Mm-hmm.
So what I would think is, like, when they were going and they were picking up this new talent, they had, like, you have to kind of tell some of these big names that they brought in, like, this is what we have planned for you.
Mm-hmm.
So I would think, to me, the top talent that was brought in, it was had to know what they were gonna be working on.
Mm-hmm.
So it would make sense to me that, like, the talent was okay with that, and then Microsoft probably was like, after you take this series and we'll see what you do with it, then you can kind of do something else that you want to do.
Mm-hmm.
Would be what would make most sense to me. I think the dichotomy and the crew that they have assembled at the initiative, which, we have touted as, some legends, I think it's like a really great idea to kind of give them something that's older, because the game has been dormant for so long.
Mm-hmm.
What was done with Microsoft was not that great, so it kind of gives them something that's established to have fandom,
Mm-hmm.
but yet they have the freedoms to kind of do almost whatever they want with it. So I think it's like an actually really cool idea to give this team something to work on like this.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm really excited to see what they produce, because a third-person game, it feels like they could do a lot of things, whether it be like they could go open world with it. Like,
Yeah.
they could just do so much. I'm really excited to see what they wind up coming up with. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and I actually agree with that. The more I think about, because at first I was thinking, okay, Perfect Dark coming back, like, and don't get me wrong, I mean, the whole reason, like, and I think I've said this before, the whole reason why Perfect Dark exists is because Rare lost the GoldenEye license. They couldn't make it, they lost it, or I should say the James Bond license. They wanted to make a follow-up and use that engine to make a follow-up to GoldenEye, because it's one of the best, one of the grandfathers of console shooters out there and one of the best of all time for that time period. But, they wanted to capitalize on that, but they didn't have the James Bond license. They lost it to EA. So what do? Okay, let's go out there and make our own espionage-esque game and make sure we have a way to use this multiplayer platform that we have that is the reason why people are rushing out there to get it. So the whole reason why is because they don't have the James Bond, or they couldn't get the James Bond license. But seeing what it evolved into and where we're at in gaming now, like, and we see us wanting these experiences. You look at, even with some of the lineage of talent that they brought in, working on a Tomb Raider, working on something akin to my heart, Uncharted. Like, you know, these games, these third-person games, Gears of War. I think there's also a few people from Sony Santa Monica who have joined the studio. One of their design directors is what used to be an integral piece within Insomniac. All third-party action, for the most part action, but third-party narrative-heavy experiences that... Okay, what's one thing that we're getting right now that in that zone that nobody else is doing? Espionage. There's no spy, there's no Mission Impossible-esque, you know, experience that's really out there that speaks to people that you could take. Okay, well, Microsoft's probably thinking, well, fuck, we could take that whole, you know, we have something that falls in line with that. If we want to make a follow-up that isn't to Mission Impossible Fallout, that isn't Mission Impossible Fallout, we can fucking do it, and we can make it in a video game. So,
yep.
To me, it continues to make more sense to do a Perfect Dark. Or, like, that would definitely work, because there's a hole for that, and gaming's in that position now where so many people are just jumping in and they're wanting to play these. Like, single player is not dead. Like, we've learned that this past console generation. Yeah. For the longest time, people were like, the single-player experience is dead. No. Single-player games sell fucking way more than people thought they would. So, single-player is alive and well, and we're starting to see, like, the fruits of that labor now. You know, after the first couple years of this gen, we saw that kind of blossom into people wanting more of that. So, you know, it's stuff like that that I hope will push people, or will push people to, and, you know, get this game when it comes out, but to take more experiences like this. And, you know, I'm actually glad that if, you know, obviously if it pans out, that it may not be Perfect Dark right on the nose, but it's going to be in that same universe that, you know what, cool, I'm good with that. There's a hole for that. And I'm more worried about, I don't care what the game is, if it's fun to play and it tells me, you know, especially if it's a narrative heavy third person over the shoulder action game, you know, that's right up my alley for things that I like. As long as I enjoy playing that, I don't fucking care what it's about, you know? As long as it isn't, know, being a Nazi or some shit, then yeah. You know, I'm cool with that.
Not to mention, it does seem like, it's just like, if you're going to go out and poach all this big talent, you're going to put a lot of big fish in a room, and it's like, at what point does it, like, you go out, you buy all this talent, and then you say, you know, the world is your oyster, go make whatever you want from it. And then it's like, how long are they going to sit there in a meeting room for 6 months arguing about what they want to make? It's a lot easier to poach all this big talent and kind of be like, yeah, we already have we already have a first party game that really hasn't been, you know, done in a long time, and we want you guys to work on it. You kind of give all this big top talent, you know, a little bit of room you give them something that's been somewhat established. Obviously it hasn't been done in a long time. And then you let them go ahead and put their own spin on it to kind of get their feet wet and figure out, you know, where they're going from there. I love it.
I totally do too. I think it's going to be, it has the potential for what, you know, what the landscape looks right now, or at least within the next couple of years, that it has the potential to really kind of fit into a really, it could make a lot of waves with it jumping in there. Like, I think it has that potential is what I'm trying to say. So, Mike, let's end the party chat before we wrap up the episode this week. So, at the end of each episode, we propose one question that we want to discuss. Could be as simple as, what's your favorite story beat in a game? You know, what have you been playing during quarantine? Or it could be a little more in depth as to, like, why the negative stigma around gaming still exists for some reason, which it just shouldn't.
Virgins.
Yeah, fucking losers. This guy doesn't game, fucking nerd. And after answering it ourselves, we'll kick it over to you to tweet your responses to the question over on our Twitter at GPGC Podcast, or our email too if you want to. And we'll read some of the responses the following week, like from last week's question, which do you think we'll see first? A new Banjo-Kazooie game from anybody but Rare, or a new Rare IP that isn't Sea of Thieves or Everwild? This comes from Mason C over on our email. My mind says new IP, but my heart yearns for a new Banjo game, so fuck it. Banjo it is. I like the boldness of that. I like the confidence. You know what? Listen to your heart. We're sticking with that. So, this week's question, Mike, do you find it okay to offer microtransactions for actual content? Not just cosmetics, we're talking actual in-game content. within a title that is a first-party game and launches on Game Pass. And the example I'm kind of using right now to explain this question is Microsoft Flight Simulator. It came out, it's on Game Pass, you can get it for $1 for 3 months or whatever the fuck it is. Here's the whole game. But it's offering various DLCs that are upwards of $30 to $50, including airports, planes, things like that, in that price range. So do you find it okay to offer microtransactions for content like that within a title that you're technically still paying for as it is, and launches on Game Pass? You're not getting it for free, you're paying for it.
Right.
What do you think?
This, my, customer side of me is, wants to be irate, but at the same token, we've all been there where we've spent $60 on a game and it's just been dog shit. So to me, it's yeah, it kind of sucks. Obviously, you'd like to get the full game, but whenever you're paying a very small fee to get as many games as possible, I really hope this isn't what Microsoft has planned for Game Pass, because essentially then it becomes just like a demo, a demo service, and then you'll buy the game afterwards, right? So I want to say absolutely not, this is brutal, but at the same token, you're getting to try the game, and if you really like it, you can support it further, which is kind of like what Fortnite and Apex and those BRs that are free do. So I'm really torn on this question, but a shoot from the hip type situation is it's concerning, because I don't want this to be the case with Xbox Game Pass. I feel like it loses a ton of its value that way. So I say I don't think it's that cool. I don't think it's cool at all. It's kind of shitty to the customer, but then there's also there's pros and cons, but I feel like the cons outweigh the pros for sure.
Yeah, I mean, I have no problem paying for, especially if it's just cosmetic or things like that. If it's non-pay to win mechanics, I totally don't mind investing in free-to-play games like Valorant, now CSGO, you name it, Fortnite, whatever, where it's free to get in, but to support them, hey, here's cosmetics that you can buy. You can play as Iron Man, you can play as Batman, you can play as whoever. Here's this dope skin for your gun that you saw your favorite streamer using. You can buy it right here. It's $10 or whatever. To me, that's okay. I totally support that kind of where you can get in, you can have the full experience with $0 down just to go in and play. But if you want to support us, we can give you some cool stuff that you can buy through the store. That's totally fine. When you get into, it's almost gatekeeping in a way when it comes to, or content gatekeeping, I should say, when it comes to things like this, specifically Microsoft Flight Simulator, where it seems more like updates. All right, for example, if you have Google Maps, you don't have to pay for a map update or whatever. You just get the update.
Yep.
Stuff like that, where it's the whole allure of playing Microsoft Flight Simulator is to, obviously simulate flying a plane, but you could literally fly anywhere in the world. You could do anything. You could go to any airport, yada yada, and it's supposed to be up to date as much as it can be. But whenever you get to the point where it's oh, you could pay $60 for this fucking plane to fly or whatever, that's a lot of fucking money for just that. And the fact that you're already hey, even if I don't say you don't have Game Pass, you could buy this fucking game on Steam. Maybe it's somebody who doesn't want to, hey, I'm not in the Xbox ecosystem, but I still want to support them and buy this game because I'm excited about Flight Simulator. Cool. I can spend $60 on Steam and buy this game right now. Oh, well, this plane I want is another $60. Okay.
Yeah.
Come on, man. To me, and that may just be a more specific case for this. That may be a very niche problem, but because you don't see it as much, you usually see the microtransaction egregiousness in, free-to-play games for the most part. And it's mostly mobile, too, where it's, super egregious because, a lot of free-to-play games now anymore are hey, just buy cosmetics or whatever. But we still did have Battlefront 2 from EA that was hey, yeah, you paid $60 for this game. If you want to actually use Luke Skywalker, you either have to grind 3,000 hours, or you can pay us $100 and we'll get you in, or $200 and we'll give you them right now. Come on, man. Let's be real. So That's our answers. Now we want to hear from you. Go over and tweet us at GPGC Podcast or email us at our email in our Twitter description, and we'll read some of your responses next week. And with that being said, Mike, I think that's going to do it for our episode this week. Why don't you tell people where they can find you on the interwebs to talk about all the things we talked about, whether it's Halo Infinite and everything that's fucking going on at 343 right now, Batman, all the cool stuff that's happening with DC and video games, or the Initiative. Where can people find you? Talk about anything and everything video games on the internet.
Yeah, you can find me on Twitter at TOYSXLDIER and on Twitch at MP_Toy Soldier.
Nice. And as always, I'm your host, Travis White, aka Travelus, on most internet platforms, including Twitter at Travelus_, that's TRAVLESS_. You can also find me streaming time to time on twitch.tv/Travelus_, same as Twitter. I will be streaming more now. Now that I have my own little office set up and the Game Pass Gamecast studio going on now, I can actually stream, at a time that isn't like only this exact time at this exact day. It's much more flexible. So I'm going to be streaming a lot more here, hopefully starting next week or something like that. But you'll hear from me about that if I'm going to. And then also, too, if you want to play some video games with me, basically any platform, but we're talking Xbox specifically, go over to Xbox Live, search Travelus, that's just TRAVLESS, no underscore. You'll find me over there. We can play some video games. And Mike, with that being said, this has been the newest episode of the Game Pass Gamecast, your weekly go-to podcast for all things Xbox, Xbox Game Pass, and PC gaming, including news, rumors, and conversations around them again, good video games. You can catch new episodes of the show when they drop each and every Friday morning on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, SoundCloud, and all other major podcast services. So be sure to subscribe to us, rate us, review us, all that jazz wherever you get a podcast at, and follow us on Twitter at GPGC Podcast. Stay up to date with everything regarding the show, video games alike, and our dope giveaways. With that being said, Mike, that's going to be it for our episode this week. Thank you so much for everyone for listening, sharing, and being a part of our growing community. Game on, wash your fucking hands, listen to the Dockers, Black Lives Matter, and we will see you next week.